Student, we discuss about today about the environmental ethics. Okay, student, tell me what are the environmental ethics? What do you understand by ethics? Ethics means ethics are can be said as the boundaries. Ethics can be said as the right direction. It can be said that it directs or it guided us and what we have to do, what is right, what we should do, or what practices we should follow. In the same way, there are environmental ethics. Environmental ethics is a branch of philosophy that examines the moral relationship between humans and their natural environment. Environmental ethics is a branch of philosophy that examines the moral relationship between humans and their natural environment. It seeks to address the ethical principles guiding human interaction with the environment and the obligation that arise from those interactions. Means when you interact with the environment, when the human interact with the environment, there are certain ethics that the human should follow when he or she is interacting. And when you are interacting with the environment, or when you are using the resources that are providing you by the environment, then there are certain obligations on the human being to be followed, to be done, so that environment can be protected. Different cultures and regions have their own unique perspective and practices related to environmental conservation. Here we will explore the role of Indian and other cultural perspectives in environmental ethics and conservation. Environmental ethics is a discipline that emerged in the 20th century, influenced by the growing awareness of environmental issues. It explores the ethical relationship between humans and the natural world, questioning the moral standing of non-human entities and ecosystem. So, environmental ethics is a branch of philosophy that examines the relationship between the humans and natural environment. It guides a human being that what he or she can do for the environment and what he and she should do for the environment. What are the social responsibility of the human being towards the environment? What are the various obligations of the human being towards the environment? As every region and culture have its various perspective, they followed various practices related to environmental conservation. So here we are going to explore it. Now there are various key philosophical approaches for understanding the concept of environment. The very first one philosophical approach that we are going to discuss is anthropocentrism. It says the approach places humans at the center of ethical consideration, valuing the environment primarily for its utility to human beings. Means this approach places the human at the center of ethical consideration. Means this is the human who have the main responsibility for protecting the environment. He should value the environment at the primary level as environment provides the major benefits to the human beings only. So it is the human being only who is getting benefited from the environment, who is getting the maximum benefit from the environment. So it is the primary responsibility of the human being to protect the environment from any disaster. But this perspective is critically argued that leads to environmental degradation because it justifies the exploitation of nature for human beings. Because nature, it justifies that if the human is benefiting, then they can exploit the nature. So this perspective is critically argued, this anthropocentrism. Because it is seeing the nature from the human benefit point of view, and it is argued that the nature is exploiting just because of the human benefit. So this particular concept has been criticized. Next concept came, that is biocentrism. This perspective explains that living beings are morally considered, that all the life forms have intrinsic value. Means all the species, all the animals, all the persons, all the individuals who are living on the environment have the intrinsic value, and we should have the respect for nature. And every living organism have the right to live, and we should respect their living right. Sure, we should not destroy the nature. So this philosopher Paul Taylor in his book Respect for Nature argues for the inherent worth of a living organism and advocate for their rights and respect. Ecocentrism. This approach extends moral concern to entire ecosystem. What does do? This ecocentrism approach extends moral concern to entire ecosystem. Emphasize the interconnectedness of all components of the environment, including non-living elements. This approach extends moral concern to entire ecosystem, emphasize the interconnectedness of all components of the environment, including non-living elements. Aldo Leopold Land Ethic is a seminal work in this field, advocating for ethical relationships that respect the integrity, stability, and beauty of the biotic community. They say this biotic community should be protected. We should respect its integrity. We should respect its stability, and we should respect the beauty of this biotic community. Sure, we should not destroy our natural environment. And even the non-living elements have its respect, have its integrity, and have its stability. Another definition is given for the deep ecology. This philosophy calls for profound changes in human attitude and behavior towards nature, advocating for the intrinsic value of all living beings and the need for a radical restructuring of modern societies. Our philosophy calls for profound changes in human attitude. This says the human attitude should be changed, their behavior should be changed towards the nature. They advocate that every living being have the intrinsic value, and there is the need that this modern society should be restructured. This Arvind Nais, the founder of the deep ecology, emphasized that self-realization should be there. Biocentric equality should be there, where all the beings, whether living beings or non-living beings, they have the equal life to live and they flourish. They have the equal life to take the benefit of all the environmental, all of the natural elements residing in the environment. Next definition given for the ecofeminism. This perspective linked that environmental degradation with the operation of women, arguing that the exploitation of nature and the marginalization of women stem from similar patriarchal structures. Means the thinking that you are making for the women, the marginalization of the women have the same thinking that you are exploiting the nature as it is our mother. This nature is like the mother of us. This earth is like the mother of us. If we are doing bad for our mother, means we are exploiting the women society. Thinkers like Vandana Shiva and Karen Gunn highlighted that what is the connection between the feminist issues and ecological issues, and advocate for the empowerment of women as a means to achieve the environmental sustainability. See how this environmental safety have given the various views, various particular point of views in terms of the women's also deep ecology and everything, how they are interconnected, how they have been picturized. As ecocentrism, this approach extends moral concern to entire ecosystem, emphasizing the interconnectedness of all components of the environment, including non-living elements. And as living and non-living are all the part of the nature, they all have the equal right to have the full benefit of the natural elements prevailing in the environment. If you are getting any disaster or any harm to the natural elements, you are degrading the environmental quality and you are obviously degrading the quality of the earth. Key concepts in environmental ethics. intrinsic versus instrumental value. Idea that nature has value in of itself, independent of its utility or to humans. Means we only think that this particular environment is for the benefit of humans. But if we feel like it, that the things, every element that is prevailing in the nature have its value, have its importance, have some of the purpose in the environment, then we get independent of this concept that is have benefit to the human being. So if the every person have its value, have its purpose in the nature, then it should not be destroyed. It should be used, it should be preserved, it should be conserved, it should be protected. Instrumental value means the value that nature holds because of its useful to human beings, such as it provides resources, it provides pleasure, or it provides various ecosystem services. So, environmental ethics says environment is for two values. First idea is that ethics says that nature has its value. It has value for it itself also, independence of its benefits to provide to the human. Other value says that nature holds various benefits to the human beings. It provides various resources, it provides pleasure to the human, and it provides various ecosystem services. Moral considerability. The concept of which entity deserves moral consideration. Traditional ethics considered only humans as morally considerable, but environmental ethics expands to include animals, plants, and ecosystem. As we have traditional ethics, they only say that all the human beings are morally responsible for this environmental protection. We should protect our environment. They connected it towards the moral of the person. But this have been expanded to include that animals, for the ecosystem, for the plants, it is very important to protect the environment as these all species are protecting our lives. Intergenerational justice. The ethical principle that current generation have obligation to future generation to preserve the environment. As I've told you, that if we degrade the environment today, if we didn't protect the environment today, then our future generation environment will not be protected. So the ethical principle that if we protect environment today, it is an obligation for us for the future generation that we preserve the environment and natural resources. So it will be available for our future generation, ensuring that they too can enjoy a healthy planet. The practice of meeting current needs without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. Means we should meet the current need, but think that our future generation, for our current needs, our future generation will not compromise with their own needs. They get the same healthy planet that we have. We should not destroy the planet in a way that our future generation will get only problems. They will have to live in an unhealthy. They will come across with a certain problems. They will have the various health issues. It integrates environmental health, environmental viability, and social equality. Everybody have their life right to live. They have the right to get a benefit of this environmental benefits. They were the significant thinkers and they have contributed, as we have discussed previously also. Aldo Porter, Leopold Seminal work, San Conte element proposes that humans should view themselves as a member of biotic community and act in way that preserve the health of the land. Aldo Porter says that humans should think that they are the part of this biotic community and should act in a way that preserve the health of the land. R.B. Neer, that I have told deep ecology. They introduce the concept of deep ecology and emphasize the intrinsic value of nature and advocate for the lifestyle that respect and protect the natural world. They say that person should adopt that type of lifestyle that will protect this natural world, that respect the natural world, and yes, things will be available for the future generations also. Peter Singer, who talked about the animal liberation. Singer's work in animal ethics argues for the extension of the moral consideration to animals also, promote the rights of animals' welfare that is based on the principle of minimizing suffering for the animals, plants, and the other species who are alive on the land. Paul Taylor, who says respect for the nature, respect for the human centric approach to environmental ethics. All living beings have their inner worth. They deserve the respect. They deserve to live. Vanna Shiva, eco-feminist. Shiva's work highlights what is the interconnected environmental sustainability and social justice. Advocate for the right of indigenous communities and the women in the context of environmental conservation. Cultural perspectives on environmental ethics. Indigenous cultures often have a holistic view of nature, seeing themselves as part of larger ecological community. Their practices and beliefs are deeply intertwined with their environment, promoting conservation through traditional knowledge and sustainable practices. Asian philosophies, it is Taoism, Buddhism, emphasize harmony with Tao or natural order, advocating for the simple and balanced life that respect nature. Buddhism promote compassion and mindfulness towards all beings, encouraging practices that reduce harm to the environment. African tradition emphasize the communal management of resources and spiritual significance of natural elements. Practices like the protection of sacred forests and communal land use promote environmental sustainability. Western philosophies, the development of environmental ethics in the West has been influenced by the movements of the conservatism, preservatism, and more recently, sustainability and climate justice. So this is the cultural perspective. Every culture, every part have given its particular philosophies. The emphasis is on environmental protection. Everybody wants to have the protective environment so that our future generation can live in a safe planet. Now, what is the Indian perspective on this environmental ethics? Indian perspective have been divided into three parts, that is Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. First, we talk about the Hinduism perspective. Hindus given the concept of dharma. Dharma means duty. It means it is a responsibility towards the nature. There is a various texts like Vedas, Upanishad, epics, such as there is Mahabharata, Ramayana, which emphasize that what is the sanctity of nature, what is the importance of this earth, river, trees like banyan, people, animals, cows, snakes, how they are revered, how they are worshipped. In our Hindus, we worship various animals. We worship cow, we worship snake. We worship various types of trees. We worship banyan trees, we worship people tree. We worship the rivers. We worship Ganga, we worship Yamuna. So Hindus connected this all nature to the spirituality so that as all these trees, all these earth, this are giving benefit and it should be worshipped because we are surviving because of it. If rivers are not there, water will not be there. We can't able to live, we can't able to survive. If these animals are not there, these animals are giving milk or this, we are surviving due to these animals. This people, this banyan is giving shadow and providing a good ecological benefits to the person. So we are worshipping these things so that our environment can be protected. And this Hindus, according to this Hindus, we are protecting these all particular natural things so that they can be protected. Like these Vedas and Upanishad, the oldest Hindu scriptures like Vedas, contains very hymn that express reverence for natural elements like fire, water, and the sun. The Upanishad, which are philosophical texts, discuss interconnectedness of life and nature, promoting the idea that harming nature is equivalent to harming oneself. That is, everything is very much important. If you are harming the nature, if you are harming these things, yes, you are harming yourself. So this Hindu scriptures, old as Vedas, it contains various elements and discuss the interconnectedness of life and nature. Bhagavad Gita. This sacred text emphasizes the concept of Loka Shamgar, the welfare of the world, the encouraging the action that contribute to the overall good, including the protection of nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, there were certain principles given by the Lord Vishnu, which encourage that you should do some contribute to the society, to the environment. He have emphasized that you have to do everything that is right for the environment, and it includes also the protection of nature. Puranas, texts like Bhagavad Puran, it contains various stories that promote environmental stewardship, such as the preservation of forests and animals. So Hindus have various Upanishads, Vedas, and epics, various books, various Ramayans, various Puranas, which emphasize towards the protection of the environment, which emphasize that how the environment can be protected, how we can contribute towards the protection of the environment. In Hindus, it is connected to the spirituals, that how we can contribute to the organization's safety. In others also like Jainism, strong emphasis on non-violence, that is ahimsa, which extend to all living beings, including plants and microorganisms. Jain ethics promote environmental conservation through strict vegetarianism and minimizing harm to all kinds of life. Jains follow strict vegetarianism. They even don't eat that type of food that destroy the nature or that produce by destroying the nature. They have a very strong principles they are very much ordered principles, and their principles have been formed by contributing towards the nature only. Central to Jain ethics, Ahimsa extend beyond humans to all living beings, advocating for the lifestyle that minimize harm to any form of life. Jains often practice strict vegetarians and avoid activities that cause harm to microorganisms. Apargirgar encourages minimalism and reducing one's ecological footprint by limiting possession and consumption. Means they encourage minimalization by reducing that one ecological footprint. They limit possession and consumption. They say consume less possession. There should be there less motivation, less direction of the individuals toward the possession of things, so that this environment can be protected. These things can be protected. Jainis principles, all the principles that we studied about the Jainis, they are towards the protection of the environment, they were towards the protection of the society. Buddhism, they teaches the interconnectedness of all life forms. The principle of dependent or implies harming the environment ultimately harms oneself. The Eightfold Path encourages right action and livelihood, promoting sustainable and mindful living. So this is Buddhism that teach that how the life is interconnected, how the environment is interconnected to the human life. If you are making harm to the environment, ultimately you are harming yourself. If you are on the right action to the life lived, you should promote sustainable and mindful living. This principle teaches that all phenomena are interconnected. Action that harm the environment create negative karma, affecting both the individual and the larger ecosystem. It advises against professions that harm living beings, promotes sustainable and ethical ways of living. So, environmental protection is better everywhere, in every culture, in every ethics, in every Indian, Western, everywhere, because it's very important to protect the environment. If you are protecting environment, you are protecting yourself. You are doing something for yourself. You are protecting your future generation. This nature is very much important. This nature is very much, very much important for your survival. If you're not protect this environment, you cannot protect yourself. Everything is contributing to the human benefit. Your human is getting all the resources from this nature only. So you have to do something for the nature. Everyone responsibility is there to have a proper protection for the environment. So student, here we discussed about the various cultural concepts. We continue this topic in our other lectures also. Thank you very much.